Hi everyone, I am Avdesh God. Congratulations on making it to section 4. This entire section is dedicated to the learnings on advanced analytical capabilities available within Tableau. We will get to know what these capabilities are and how to utilize the same to get the maximum out of it. In this section, we'll learn about adding the trend lines in order to figure out the net trends that your visualized data is following. We'll also learn about its significance along with the trend line options. Down the line in this section, we'll understand about the reference lines, how to add the same utilizing the reference line options. Apart from this, we'll also get to know what reference bands are. We'll be learning about the data clustering in Tableau. What's the default algorithm that Tableau uses to make these clusters? Moreover, we'll also understand the conditions for clustering. One of the famous examples for clustering is how the email service provider differentiate between whether an email is spam or not by utilizing different characteristics such as the language used within that email, the generation point, etc. We'll get to know more about it in this section on how clustering is done and how we can get the best out of it. Last but not the least, we'll cover the forecasting in detail, starting from how to create this forecast with all the forecasting options available in Tableau. We will also learn about how to describe a forecast that we have set up along with the discussion on the constraints on forecasting in Tableau. After completing this section, you will be confident on utilizing the analytical capabilities available in Tableau to better analyze your data. And in this video, we'll kickstart with the trend lines. Well, let's get started. Trend lines can provide quite a useful insights while we are working on the initial analysis of our data. Let us connect to the world indicators data, which also comes along with every copy of Tableau. It is available under the Save Data Sources in the Connect pane. Over here, let us try to figure out, is there a relationship between the mobile phone usage and the internet usage? To do so, using the control key, select Internet usage and mobile phone usage available under the development folder. Go to Show Me and select the scatter plots. Tableau will automatically plot the same for us. But over here, we have the data in the most aggregated form, and that's why we can see a single circle out here. First of all, let us change the mark type to circle, and this will convert it into a solid circle. Let us now distribute the data based on the country region. To do so, drag the country region field from Dimensions over to the Details shelf in the Marks card. This will create a circle for each country and region available in our dataset. If we hover over, we can get to know the country name as well, for which we are having a look at the relationship between the internet usage and the mobile phone usage. Well, after having a look at it, it seems like with an increase of the mobile usage, the internet usage is also increasing. But the question is, what is the generalized mathematical formula to establish this relationship between the mobile phone usage and the internet usage? Well, in order to establish that, we can add a trend line. To do so, we need to go to the Analytics pane available to the right of Data pane. Once we click on that, it will cover up the Data pane. Over here, we have the trend lines available under Models. All we need to do is drag the trend lines to our visual. We'll get a variety of models to add this trend line to. Starting off, we have a linear model, logarithmic model, exponential, polynomial, and power model as well. Based on your initial selection, Tableau will select the model, and based on that model, the trend line will be generated. Let us select the linear model for the time being. Tableau will add up a trend line, and by having a look at this trend line, we can clearly establish the relationship between the mobile phone usage and the internet usage. Moreover, if we hover over the trend line, we can also get to know the generalized mathematical formula for this linear relationship along with the R squared and P values. Remember, this generalized mathematical formula will also depend upon the model that we initially selected. As we selected the linear model, this mathematical equation is also linear in nature. That is of the form of y is equal to mx plus c, wherein y is the internet usage, x is the mobile phone usage, whereas m is the coefficient and c is the intercept, or in fact the y-intercept. Removing the trend lines from the view is quite easy as well. All you need to do is drag the trend line from your view and it will be gone. Let us undo this for the time being by utilizing the undo button out there available in the toolbar. By default, the trend line appears per color and per pane. Let us go back to the data pane. Let us put the region field onto the rows and we can see a separate trend line per pane. Let us now move this region field from rows to the color shelf, and here we can see multiple trend lines corresponding to each region in the same view. Well, note down over here, if in case we do not want a separate trend line, even though we have some dimension on the color shelf, then all we need to do is right click on the trend line and select Edit All Trend Lines. Tableau will open up a dialog box. Over here, at the end, under Options, let's uncheck Allow a Trend Line per Color. And in the background, if you can see, now we have a single line despite of having the region dimension over the color shelf. Notice that we can change a lot more options with this dialog box, starting off with the selection of model type. As of now, we have selected the linear model, which tells Tableau to utilize a linear mathematical equation in order to come up with the trend line. And that's why our trend line is linear in nature. If we change the model type to polynomial with a degree 3, then the mathematical equation behind this trend line will change, and so will the shape of the trend line, as you can see in the background. If we change the degree, then it will again come back to the linear form, which is again of the form of y is equal to mx plus c. If we increase the degree of the polynomial, then the shape will change accordingly. If you have a decent background in mathematics, then you'll be able to easily correlate the shape of the line with the degree of the polynomial equation. Also remember, a linear equation is also a polynomial equation with a degree 2. Let us change it back to the linear model. Apart from the model selection, we can also check the Show Confidence Band option, which will bring up a 95% confidence interval for the trend line. And if you notice, in the background, apart from the trend line, we can see a confidence interval as well. Let us move to the default values and close this dialog box for the time being. We can also have a look at the trend line for the selected data only. All you need to do is select a bunch of numbers by holding the left key of your mouse and dragging along the view. This will select these points, or indeed the countries, and we'll see a new trend line based on only the points that we have selected. In order to go back, all you need to do is either hit escape key or click anywhere else on the view. We can also have a look at the trend model and how significant it is. To do so, right-click on the trend line and show Describe Trend Model. We will be presented with a lot of overwhelming details. If you have a solid statistical and mathematical background, you'll be able to correlate with these details. And if in case you require the same, you can always have a look at these details by the steps that we have just followed. We will close this for the time being. We can also format the trend line by right-clicking on it and selecting Format. Over here, under Lines, we have a trend line option. Starting off, we can change the line type, and over here, we have multiple options as a dotted line. Moreover, we can also change the thickness of the line as well. If you want, you can also change the color of the trend line as well. Let's set it to a shade of gray. Well, this looks good. In the next video, we'll learn about the reference lines in Tableau.